Crash is the worst Best Picture winner of all time.
Crash.
So my roommate was assigned to watch the movie Crash as a part of his race class, and I decided that I would watch along with him. I didn't really know anything about Crash. I had heard some people complain that it was overrated and it didn't deserve to win Best Picture in the year that it had won, but I figured I might as well watch it, and it was fucking terrible. Felt like it could have been a Shyamalan movie, honestly. The amount of scenes that you're supposed to take seriously in this movie that are fucking hilarious is very Shyamalan-esque.
David Lynchian, Hitchcock, and Kurosawa, and Stanley Kubrick. Stickiness.
It's melodramatic, its conflicts are forced, and it's painstakingly dumb. So Crash is telling the story of a bunch of different people interacting in a short amount of time and how all their actions are affecting each other, and it's also trying to be a not very subtle message about racism. This will forever be the movie I think of when I hear the term race baiting, because for me race baiting is just a subcategory of Oscar bait, in which the film itself is just trying to win an award and isn't really doing anything special with it, or anything interesting with its presentation or anything like that. There are so many other movies that tackle the issue of race way more subtly and way more interestingly than this movie. Nearly every single plot point in this movie hinges on some misunderstanding that would never happen in real life, or characters acting completely illogical, or even sometimes acting completely different than they would normally act given what we've seen so far. This movie has such little thought put into the writing and is focusing all of its energy on just trying to shove a message down the audience's throats. Crash is the movie equivalent to those awful political music videos you see every now and again, like La Tigre. That is what this movie is. To think that this movie was even nominated, let alone won Best Picture, is actually baffling to me. Because even if you take away the dumb writing, there's nothing special about this movie. The directing isn't done particularly differently, the editing isn't very great. Almost every single transition is a match cut, which is about as complex as it gets for editing. It really reflects poorly on the Oscars when you look back at picks like these. This felt more like a PR move than anything. It didn't seem like they were actually trying to pick the best film. But even if it's a PR move, you'd think you'd pick the one that's commenting on a social issue but is an actually decent movie with standout performances and actual writing. You know, it might actually legitimize you as an awards ceremony if you're able to give the best picture to an actually decent movie, not pick a cliched phoned-in melodrama that most people can see how shallow it is from a mile away. Alright, let's get this started. So we open up on Don Cheadle doing a monologue after he just got into a car accident, and then... and his monologue makes no sense.
It's the sense of touch.
What?
Any real city, you walk, you know? You brush past people, people bump into you. In LA, nobody touches you. We're always behind this metal and glass. I think we miss that touch so much that we crash into each other just so we can feel something.
You guys okay?
I think he hit his head.
Just wait, people in LA would just want to hit each other or something? I don't know. And then Jennifer Esposito says this.
We got rear-ended. I think we spun around twice. And somewhere in there, one of us lost our frame of reference. And I'm gonna go look for it.
What are you fucking talking about? So she gets out to yell at the other person involved in the accident. No one checks on Don Cheadle and he walks directly into a crime scene? Were they in a police car? I guess they were driving on their way to a crime scene and then they hit this passenger. Also, is he allowed to just resume his job and walk right into the crime scene without being checked by a doctor at all? You might have a concussion, you know. Just want to bring this up again. That monologue has nothing to do with anything, and it's barely connected to anything that we're going to see from this point onward. Anyway,
That's what I heard.
You gotta smoke.
I quit.
Yeah, me too. What you got?
Did you quit smoking? Was that an inside joke? Why would a person who quit smoking have a pack of cigarettes and a lighter just on hand? So he walks over to the evidence that's in a field of dry grass and he's smoking his cigarette, which seems like a very quick way to burn all your evidence and lose it. So he looks somberly in the distance and he clearly noticed something that upset him, and then we fade to white. Title read, Yesterday. Just to give you a bit of a preface here, we're going to be jumping from character to character all over the place. Just thought I should let you know. First guy is this Persian dude who's trying to buy a gun, but he doesn't seem to understand the English language very good. So the dude kicks him out because he's Persian, or he's foreign, or something.
Yo, Sama. Plan the jihad on your own time. You're ignorant man. Oh yeah, I'm ignorant? You're liberating my country and I'm flying 747s into your mud huts and incinerating your friends. Get the fuck out of my... No, you get the fuck! Come on. Get out! No, don't touch me. He cheated me.
So the daughter's handling the rest of the purchase and is getting fed up with the guy not giving him any bullets and just says, give me whatever, and then he does.
You can give me the gun or give me back the money. And I'm really hoping for the money.
Did you see any white people in there waiting an hour and 32 minutes for a plate of spaghetti? Huh? And how many...
So two dudes are leaving a restaurant having a conversation about the service they just received, and the dude on the left, played by Ludacris, is complaining that he thinks he was discriminated against during his service, and the other dude on the right is trying to tell him that he's overreacting and that he wasn't being discriminated against.
Man, that woman in there poured cup after cup to every single white person around us, but did she even ask you if you wanted any?
We didn't get any coffee that you didn't want and I didn't order, and that's evidence of racial discrimination?
And he keeps rattling off reasons why he think it was discrimination, and he keeps saying why it wasn't.
Did you notice that our waitress was black?
And black women don't think in stereotypes? You tell me something, man. When was the last time you met one who didn't think she knew everything about your little lazy ass before you even opened your mouth? Huh? That waitress sized us up in 2 seconds. We're black and black people don't tip. So she wasn't gonna waste her time?
So, how much is you leaving?
You expect me to pay for that kind of service? What?
And this was probably one of the only highlights of the entire movie, was the first time we met these two. It's just a very believable dynamic, and it shows their personalities in a very smooth and quick way. It had a good sense of humor, it showed their personality, it was believable, because even though he was saying some silly things, this guy was saying that, hey, the movie is self-aware about it. We understand that what he's saying is
ludicrous.
I'm seriously starting to think that you're jealous of Karen.
Hardly. I'd just like to see you get through a meal without calling her or anyone else for that matter.
So then we're introduced to Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser's character in this scene. They're very clearly high-privileged white people just doing high-privileged white people things or something. And then this happens.
Wait. See what that woman just did? You see that?
Right, she's cold.
She got colder as soon as she saw us, though.
Oh, man, come on, don't start.
Man, look around you, man. You couldn't find a whiter, safer, or better lit part of this city right now. But yet this white woman sees 2 black guys who look like UCLA students strolling down the sidewalk, and her reaction is blind fear. I mean, look at us, dog. Are we dressed like gangbangers? Huh? No. Do we look threatening? No. Fact, if anybody should be scared around here, it's us. Why aren't we scared?
Because we got guns?
You could be right.
Get the fuck out of the car!
Give me the keys!
I'm sorry, so what is the movie trying to say here about racial discrimination when it makes seemingly 2 normal African-American characters into criminals? Doesn't that kind of hurt your film's morals significantly? You were leading us to believe that these two were just 2 normal guys who were just in a restaurant having dinner, having a conversation, and then all of a sudden you drop this bombshell that they actually just carry guns and they rob people? Is that not the most offensive stereotype you could have done to these 2 characters? I'm not saying you can't make them robbers, but why would you make it this way where we don't know it and they reveal that information like this? Man, look at these 2. They're discriminating against us. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take advantage of them by pointing weapons at them and then stealing their possessions. Like if a racist was writing this movie, that feels like something he would do, is to turn these 2 black people into criminals for no reason, just because it's like, hey, look at I don't even understand. What are you trying to say here? This movie is trying to tell a story about the dangers of racism and how making rash judgments on a person's character based on the race is ultimately an ignorant way to live your life, because each person lives their own lives and their skin color is not going to give you the whole story. Ludacris's character is going on and on about people not treating him right and how he's being discriminated against and how people are just judging him based on his skin, but then immediately is taking advantage of people and stealing their possessions. It's such a bizarre and absurd betrayal of the film's own message, and I'm pretty sure the only reason they did this was for the sake of subverting the audience's expectations, and they weren't even thinking about anything else. So congrats, you subverted the expectations of the audiences, but you've now made it look like you're not preaching your own moral. Also, did they even talk about doing this beforehand? It seems like they did it on a whim, but like, that was way too coordinated for it to be the case. He literally just says,
Because we got guns?
and then bam, Grand Theft Auto. Not to mention, you yourself said,
You couldn't find a whiter, safer, or better lit part of this city right now.
so you're being really stupid about this robbery. This is not the place to do it. There's so many people around and it's well lit and you're gonna get caught, you idiots. And the movie weirdly just kinda resumes the tone of the conversation that they were having previously.
No, take that voodoo ass thing off of there right now.
I know you just didn't call St. Christopher voodoo. Man's the patron saint of travelers, dog.
Like, it's very light and meant to be a bit humorous and like all that, and they never acknowledge what just transpired about like an actual crime they just committed. It was just, this is the first like clue into the movie's absurdity and its betrayal of its own moral for the sake of being, I don't know, dumb, I guess.
How much longer are you gonna be?
This is the last one.
Thank you.
Later, we're at Sandra Fraser's house, and she's obviously still a bit shook up about the recent robbery. So in order to cope with that, she just decides to be obscenely racist.
I need to talk to you for a second.
Hi.
I want the locks changed again in the morning. I want the locks changed again in the morning. I would like the locks changed again in the morning. And you know what? You might mention that we'd appreciate it if next time they didn't send a gang member.
gang member?
Yes.
Well, you mean that kid in there?
Yes. The guy in there with the shaved head, the pants around his ass, the prison tattoo.
Those are not prison tattoos.
Oh, really? And he's not gonna go sell our key to one of his gangbanger friends the moment he is out our door.
The dude's like 10 feet away from you, so he most definitely can hear you, and if you're suspicious that he might try to do something and to jeopardize your safety of your house, it's probably not a great idea to give him a reason to by yelling this discriminatory shit where he can definitely hear you.
We've had a really tough night. I think it'd be best if you just went upstairs right now.
And what, wait for them to break in? I just had a gun pointed in my face.
You lower your voice.
And it was my fault because I knew it was gonna happen. But if a white person sees two black men walking towards her and she turns and walks in the other direction, she's a racist, right? Well, I got scared and I didn't say anything.
I'm sorry, but you turning across the street had nothing to do with it. There's a few things here. One is that it was because you were holding your husband's arm that caught their attention. You turned in the other direction because your car was across the street, you should know that. And you're probably called racist for a bunch of different reasons.
Your amigo in there, gangbanger friends, the prison tattoo.
Not the fact that you crossed the street.
And 10 seconds later, I had a gun in my face.
Wait, why is that his fault?
Your amigo in there is gonna sell our key to one of his homies, and this time it'd be really fucking great if you acted like you actually gave a shit.
I'm sorry, when did your husband act like he didn't give a shit about your car getting stolen? Isn't that why he has all his government friends in your house right now? And isn't that why the locksmith is here? In that previous situation, she had little control over offending them. That just kind of happened. But now she's like actively trying to, it feels like. Screaming at the top of her lungs about his prison tattoos or whatever. And his homies. The movie just had her explain that the reason she thinks she got robbed was because she offended the two assailants earlier by walking across the street. Why would she then be 10 times more offensive to a locksmith that can definitely hear her? Is it because she's scared? And I feel like that's all the more reason why she wouldn't be yelling this, and she'd probably be a little bit more quiet about it. I get people cope in different ways, but this is just illogical. Her character's so dumb, whiny, and racist, and just completely unlikable, so when they inevitably do the whole, oh, she learned a lesson thing, I just don't believe it, because she's just too far gone on the asshole spectrum. But the movie does this with every character, so it's not that weird with her specifically, but this is the first instance I noticed it, where she's just too fucking mean and illogical with her meanness that I just kind of go like, whatever, man, fuck you.
Listening to me. This is an emergency. I keep telling you, he's in pain. He can't sleep.
So then we meet this cop who's frustrated because his dad is in pain and he feels that the receptionist isn't doing enough, so he naturally becomes upset and very racist.
I want to talk to your supervisor.
I am my supervisor.
Yeah, what is your name?
Shaniqua Johnson.
Shaniqua, big fucking surprise that is.
Oh.
And then we're introduced to this couple who's having oral sex in their car, so he pulls them over and harasses them because he's so gosh darn upset.
That's good right there. Look at me. I want you to stand on your right foot, touch your nose with the index finger of your left hand.
I told you he doesn't drink.
Ma'am, I'm only gonna tell you one time to stay in the vehicle.
Ma'am.
Honey, I'm okay. I got this.
Don't you man me. Who the hell do you think you're talking to?
I'm sorry, but why is ma'am an insult or dismissive to you in any way? You are an adult woman. They established that she's drunk, but even still, it's like, why would she be offended by that? Just because you're drunk doesn't mean you're automatically offended by any word someone calls you.
What do you think we should do about this, Mr. Thayer? My partner and I just witnessed your wife performing fellatio on you while you were operating a motor vehicle. Now we could use our discretion and let you go with a warning, or we can cuff you and put you in the back of the car.
And then he fingers her and then he lets him go, and the couple has a fight about it. It's like, I was humiliated and you don't even care. And it's like, I didn't want you to get shot. And it's like, fuck you. Next scene. Then we follow the locksmith home and find out of course he's a dad and he's really sweet and he's nice and he has a daughter. Aww. Fuck you, Sandra Bullock. I wish you died in gravity. So the daughter doesn't want to go to bed because she thinks she heard a gunshot. So this very cliched and very boring scene happens where he tells her about an invisible cloak that protects him from bullets, and he gives it to her so she feels better. We'll come back to this later. Then he gets a call to go fix a lock at the Persian guy's store. And when he fixes the lock, he informs the store owner that it's not the lock, it's the door that's the problem. The door won't close properly.
I replaced the lock. But you got a real problem with that door.
So the locksmith tries to explain it to him.
Just fix the lock. Listen to me. What you need is a new door.
I need new door?
Yeah.
But then the store owner doesn't understand it, and he thinks he's being cheated, like he was with the gun salesman.
Okay. How much?
Sir, you're gonna have to call somebody that sells doors.
You tried to cheat me, right? Huh? You have a friend that fixed door?
Nah, I don't have a friend that fixes doors, bro.
Then go and fix the fucking lock, you cheater.
Wait, what? Look, it's very clear that he has a minimal grasp on the English language, and it causes this misunderstanding. But he literally says,
I need new door?
Yeah.
I need new door? So the rest of the exchange should be pretty clear to him that he needs a new door. He said it himself. I understand his English isn't great, but he says, so who fixes the door? And he's like, no, I don't have a guy who fixes his door. And it should be very clear to the locksmith that he isn't getting it, but he keeps saying the same exact thing.
I replaced the lock, but you got a real problem with that door. No, I replaced the lock, but you gotta fix that door. I replaced the lock! You gotta fix the fucking door!
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
And he doesn't take him over to show him what he means or anything. And even though the store owner already seemed to understand he needs a new door, he randomly just accuses him of cheating because he got cheated earlier. Which, by the way, he didn't get cheated earlier because he still has the gun.
Why don't you just pay for the lock and I won't charge you for the time?
You don't fix the lock, I pay? But you think I'm stupid?
Why do you think you're getting cheated when you haven't paid him yet? This entire interaction was so cheap and convoluted and contrived just to drive the plot forward. Like, it's so easy, just like take him over to the door and show him why it's not closing and that he needs to get a new door. And he said it, he understood. He's like, oh, I need a new door. And then he's getting cheated for no reason. Ah, it's so bad. Ugh. I'm getting a headache.
Nah, you wanna listen to music of the oppressor, you go right ahead, man.
And the lunacy of your mind is hip-hop music of the oppressor.
So we cut back to Bonnie and Clyde here, who are having a similar conversation to their previous one, but this time I care a lot less as an audience member. Not only because I know now that they're just morally corrupt and they're criminals, but the dialogue is noticeably dumber and they're being filmed in a way more obnoxious way. This dude's talking about some insane conspiracy theory in which the FBI is controlling hip-hop to make it more regressive to oppress black people.
See, back in the 60s, we had smart, articulate black men. These brothers were speaking out, and people were listening. The FBI said, oh, no, we can't have that. I know. Let's give the niggas this music by a bunch of mumbling idiots, and sooner or later, they'll all copy it, and nobody will be able to understand a fucking word they say. End of problem.
They come to people and they say, you're going to promote cop killer stuff, you're going to promote gangster drug dealing culture, your stuff's not going to get played on MTV or the radio. And when you say, no, I won't do that, you don't get played. The globalists, total genius masters.
And this dude's singing his version of a country song, and it's so cringy and obnoxious, I just want him to shut the fuck up.
Won't buy me a rope and lynch me a nigga.
Yeah,
string 'em up
these
good,
brothers in there.
and they'll be dead. For the brave in a land of the free.
You'll be able to understand a fucking word they say. End of problem.
So then they hit this dude and they drop him off at the hospital after having like a 20-minute argument about it. They go to a shop, say, hey, can you get the blood off? He says no, but they take forever to say that. Then we cut to them next day and it's just more bullshit conversations. Listen to these wise words.
Man, put your hand down, dog. Are you out of your mind? You actually expect me to get on a bus?
No, I was hoping we can push your car across town. You know why? Because we just don't do stuff like that no more.
You have no idea, do you? You have no idea why they put them great big windows on the sides of buses, do you?
Why?
One reason only. To humiliate the people of color who are reduced to riding on it.
You know, it's very clever in a way to have somebody named Ludacris to play this character, to say these words, to utter these things. But what the fuck is he actually even talking about here? So you're telling me that the only reason buses have big windows is for the purpose of humiliating minorities? Are you saying there's never been a white person to ride the bus before? Does this movie not know who Rosa Parks is or what her story was? Also, maybe windows are just bigger on buses because it's a bus and you need to see where your stop is, and if the bus is crowded you won't be able to with smaller windows, and it's just more practical? I hate to tell you this, Ludacris, but that was the dumbest thing you've said so far. In a myriad of dumb things, that was the worst thing I've heard in any movie ever. That doesn't make any sense. This was an 04. This was pre-Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Cosmo clickbait bullshit. That is the groundwork of that type of bullshit. And then they just bring up hockey, and then the scene ends. It's over. We just say that stupid thing, talk about hockey, and leave.
Oh, you know the Kings are playing tonight.
You don't like hockey. The only reason you say you do is to piss me off.
Love hockey.
I think I figured out these two out. Ludacris will say something stupid about a non-existent race issue, and then this guy will say, hey, that thing doesn't really make too much sense, or he'll just shrug it off. That's their dynamic. So then everyone's favorite fingerer goes to the healthcare center because his father isn't getting better, he's getting worse, and he's met with the same person he was racist to on the phone earlier. He apologizes and explains that his rudeness was related to his frustration with his father's deteriorating health, and that his suspicions that he's being misdiagnosed. And it seems like he's genuinely sorry about it. And he explains that all he really wants is to get a second opinion because he doesn't trust the current doctor. But then he learns that if he does that and he needs to be operated on, then he can't use his insurance, that it won't be covered. So naturally he says this.
All right, well, you know what I can't do? I can't look at you without thinking about the 5 or 6 more qualified white men who didn't get your job.
What? What? You know, even if you're racist and that's how you feel, you're still trying to help your dad here, right? You haven't given up yet. Why on earth would you ever say this? You're significantly hurting your father's chances here by being so incredibly rude to this woman. I guess he's just hoping that being incredibly racist will get him whatever he wants.
Thinking about the 5 or 6 more qualified white men who didn't get your job.
You've had, what, 2 interactions with this woman up until now? You don't know for a fact that there are 5 or 6 more qualified white men, you piece of shit. So then he tells a story about how his dad was a janitor for many years until he could afford to start his own company.
23 employees, all of them black, paid him equal wages when no one else was doing that. For 30 years, you worked side by side with those men, sweeping and carrying garbage.
Wait, so did your dad start a janitorial company and only hired black people? Or are you saying that when he was a janitor, he only swept with black janitors? If he owned his own company, why would he be sweeping and carrying garbage with them?
And then the city council decides to give minority-owned companies preference in city contracts. And overnight, my father loses everything. His business, his home, his wife, everything.
Everything?
Everything. Not once does he blame you people.
Why would he blame African Americans for that? It sounds like you should be mad at the bureaucracy of your city then. Was everyone who decided upon that rule just black? Or how is this a race thing?
I'm asking that you do this small thing for a man who lost everything, so people like yourself could reap the benefits. And do you know what it's going to cost you? Nothing. Just a flick of your pen.
You make it sound like changing it is all up to her, and that there are no rules for how an insurance company needs to run things, and you can just do whatever. Insurance company can't just decide who gets what coverage based on their feelings towards someone.
Your father sounds like a good man. And if he'd come in here today, I probably would have approved this request. But he didn't come in. You did.
Whoa, what the fuck, Shaniqua? Are you telling me you can actually grant this request to help his dad? And the reason why you're not going to is because the son is a complete dick? And granted, he is a complete dick, sure. But does that mean his father has to pay for his sins by continuing his suffering? You said that if he had come in, he would have granted the request, but maybe he's in so much pain that he can't come in and he had to send his dickish son. This is not how anything works. You don't just... Your feelings just can't determine this shit. He shouldn't have been such an asshole, but like... She's forcing him to suffer just because the son's a complete idiot. Oh my god, this whole interaction was fucking too much. I need to take a break. Stay tuned for part 2.